I mean, these things are really going on, and they don't get the coverage. I would love to do that. If I could get a grant to do that, I would devote 6 months of my life to just driving around America, taking videotapes of people and putting together documentaries about this stuff. Because ordinary Americans deserve more attention than they're getting. Anyway, I hope Peltier supporters will consider this. We're talking little tiny portable laptop, netbook things, little tiny camcorders, and just as you go across the country, take the interviews and upload as you go. Put it on a central server. I'll donate space on my servers, edit it together. I've done video editing. I'll edit it together and just put it together and get it out there. A TV show about America, made by Americans, on the internet. We completely bypass the corporate media. They're not going to be interested in this anyway. And we get it out there. It's time for a new American self-portrait. And who knows, 50 years from now, Smithsonian may be doing a story about us. The very obvious renewed push for war. Our government is so desperate for a war. They need one as a distraction from the crashing economy, which is going to get really bad over the next couple of weeks. They need a new enemy to wave at us. I mean, our government lives by finding enemies to wave at us and then selling us the protection. It's a protection racket. It's like the mafia. You don't pay us your taxes, we're going to let the commies come in and mess you up. That's how they've been playing the game. The end of World War II. Oh, my goodness, the Germans and Japanese have capitulated. What will we do now? Oh, well, we'll make the Russians the enemy now. And we'll just scream about commies, and we'll wave commies at the American people, and we'll take their money, and we'll boss them around, and they will love it because we're saving them from the commies. And then, oh, my goodness, the Soviet Union collapsed. What do we do now? We can't just give them back their tax money. That's un-American. We'll have a new war we'll have a war on poverty, and a war on drugs, and a war on carbon dioxide, and a war on nouns, and a war on terror, and a war on those funny little haircuts they give to poodles. It's just war after war after war after war after war. That's what they sell us. The one part of our economy that's still doing really well is our weapons manufacturing. We are the bringers of death to the entire world. When you absolutely care to kill somebody the very best way, you get your weapons from the United States of America. Now, once again, we are seeing the United States back to screaming about Iran's nuclear program. They're coming out and saying Iran may have enough enriched uranium to build a bomb, U.S. warns. Well, kind of, sort of, maybe. Iran does have a lot of enriched uranium, and it's enriched to 3%. It's reactor fuel for a power station. But you know what happens when you put 3% enriched uranium in a bomb? Absolutely nothing. Because in order to work in a bomb, to be weapons grade, the uranium has to be enriched to 92%. And that is not a trivial exercise. It's not like going to the blender and going from chop to puree. In fact, if you lay out a timeline of technical difficulty of going from raw uranium ore to finished bomb, where Iran is right now with their reactor fuel is just basically one step out of yellow cake. They have come a very tiny fraction of the distance towards a bomb, and there is no evidence they're going any further. They're building a power station. It is their legal right to do so. Now we have yet another national intelligence estimate presented to President Barack Obama, which confirms the national intelligence estimate presented to President George W. Bush. Iran is not building nuclear weapons. Iran is not building nuclear weapons. Iran is not building nuclear weapons. The United States responds by saying the lack of evidence over the Iran's nukes is alarming. Okay. The bias in the story is obvious. It is an article of faith. We believe Iran has nuclear weapons because, after all, Israel wouldn't lie to us about that. And we can't find any evidence, therefore that must confirm they're hiding something. You can see the bogusness of the logic. It's the same logic that was used to burn millions of people to death for the crime of witchcraft all during the Middle Ages. We know they're witches. We can't find any proof of it, therefore they're concealing something. Now, of course, the United States, unable to convince anybody that Iran actually has a nuclear weapon or a nuclear weapons program, now they're saying, well, they could if they worked really hard. The headline read, U.S. says Iran could expedite nuclear bomb, which is the U.S. government is saying, okay, they don't have one now, and they're not really, they don't seem to be working on one. But you know, if they were to start working late and working through the weekends, they could have a nuclear bomb by Monday. So we've got to attack right now. I mean, the propaganda would be laughable if the subject of a new world war was not so serious. And we are talking world war. Putin has come out and said, do not attack Iran. He's drawing the line in the sand. Israel, Netanyahu just flew up to Russia, had a secret meeting with Russia. Doesn't look like he got what he wanted. He went up there to try and scare Russia into not supporting Iran during a coming attack. And I think Putin told him, no. You know, we are going to stand by our trade ally. We built that reactor. We're not going to let you guys bomb it. You know, at least until it's paid for. So Putin is drawing a line in the sand. And so what we're talking about, and I've been saying this for months, war with Iran will mean war with Russia. And they really do have nuclear weapons of mass destruction. And they really do have the means to deploy them anywhere in the world. Now, World War III is not going to be fun. All we're going to do is make the rubble bounce. And that is not the way I think this planet should be ending up, just because somebody is running around with visions of God in their mind saying, we're supposed to own this land. And we don't understand why you don't just kill yourselves and get out of our way, because God says this is our land. It's just nonsense. We're seeing the world drag back, not just to the height of the Cold War in the 1950s, but all the way back to the Dark Ages. Presumption of guilt, use of torture, armies running around saying we are on God's will, whether it's Israel's new military rabbis or the head of Blackwater or George Bush. This is the 21st century. We've put men on the moon. We have sent spacecraft completely out of the solar system now. We understand DNA. We build computers. All of these technological wonders, these miracles. And still, our political leadership wants to declare war on each other over whose God has the biggest dick. That is insanity. That is just insanity. We are so close to making that really huge mistake. Now, meanwhile, over in Israel, we are seeing more and more non-government organizations confirming that during Operation Cast Lead, starting on November 4th of last year when Israel broke the ceasefire, that the majority of Gazans killed were non-combatants. Innocent civilians were being targeted. Children were being targeted. Israel just went in there and just shot anything that moved and dumped white phosphor all over the rest of it. So now, as Israel is starting to look worse and worse in the eyes of the world, inevitably this happens. Anytime Israel is embarrassed before the world, there is an attack from some unknown party. Apparently yesterday, early in the day, 2 rockets were fired, supposedly from Lebanon, into Israel. Didn't hit anything. They never do. They hit empty ground. Kicks up a little bit of dust. Oh my goodness, we're under attack. Israel responded by firing 14 rockets into South Lebanon. Now the reason I want to bring this up here, over on Twitter, we spotted inevitably the propaganda machine cranked up again. This is a pattern that we saw back during the attempted coup d'etat in Iran, where the same message is being spammed continuously to Twitter, same tiny URL pointing to whatever webpage they're selling, by all these thousands and thousands of forged alternate identities that are just created and rounded up so that they can just crank this stuff out there to sell Israel's point of view about the war with Lebanon. Same exact pattern we saw with the propaganda campaign for Iran. They're out there trying to sell this war as Lebanon's fault. And I put up a couple of stories here on whatreallyhappened.com, some flashbacks. One was, remember during the first Lebanon war was started when 2 Israeli soldiers were supposed to be captured by Hezbollah inside Israel. And then we found out documentation. These 2 Israeli soldiers in uniform with guns had walked across the border of Lebanon into a Lebanese town and then just stood around there waiting to be arrested. And that was Israel's cause for the invasion of Lebanon. And then about 6 months ago, Lebanese Border Patrol found 4 rockets just inside the border from Israel, set up on stands with timers pointed back over the border into Israel. Now, folks, anybody who's been in the military knows when you're firing a rocket, you fire it right when you need it because you can see what you're aiming at. If you're putting a rocket on a timer, it's because you want to make sure the people setting up those rockets can escape and get back to wherever they came from. And if they're putting timers with like multiple hours on them, then they came from a very great distance away. Is this a false flag? Of course it is. Lebanon doesn't want a new war. Hezbollah doesn't want a new war. They're not going to launch anything at Israel. It's Israel that wants the new war. Go back and do Israel-Lebanon war Google searches and you will see Israel has been screaming for a new war in Lebanon for months now. And they're going to start it and they're going to try and grow it into Iran because your kids are going to wind up fighting this for Israel. That's it for our show. Catch you Monday at 5 p.m. Central here on Genesis Communications. Stay safe. Stay well. Lots of cinnamon. Aloha, America.